I was in New York City promoting the book.
Okay.
And I'm eating, there's a family of 4 to the right of me. Dad's scrolling, mom's watching a movie, older daughter is texting, and the son, maybe about 5 years old.
Okay.
He was completely being ignored. And I sat there for about 45 minutes.
Today's guest is a keynote speaker, the CEO of Human Touch Publishing, and the author of Connect or Die, How to Survive AI.
When you don't have a confidant in your life to be vulnerable, to not be judged, you put yourself in a box. That box starts to build and build and build, and one day you explode. That explosion for me was selling drugs. I became friends with a serial murderer.
Yeah.
I was in a tough, very tough financial situation. I had just lost a bunch of deals, hundreds of thousands of dollars, credit card debt, no cash in the bank, was just having really dark thoughts. And I'm in my kitchen and I have my back turned, and my daughter, she's wearing this yellow sundress. She's 2 years old. She walks up to me and says, "Daddy, God made you special."
Yeah.
When I decided to love myself at 32 years old, everything changed. My confidence increased. I started speaking. I met my wife, met some of the greatest people in my life. Opportunities started to come into play. I made the most money in a single 12-month period.
What is the most impactful moment in your life that changed everything for the future? Jim Morris. How does a robot drink its tea? Do you already know the answer? You do? What is it?
Artificial sugar.
Yeah, it's an artificial sweetening. Yeah. I mean, to be fair,
Let's go.
To be fair, the AI guy should know the
robot.
the artificial jealous jokes. Oh man, appreciate having you.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Excited.
Yeah, absolutely. We're the most connected generation in human history. Why are we the loneliest?
There's so much opportunity to connect right now, right? There's social media, there's automation. We're cutting down the energy we're using, the time, through AI, through all these resources. But I believe that the biggest issue in the world today is we're outsourcing our genius and we're racing to connect rather than taking a step back and understanding exactly how to connect with someone. Things like listening, things like following up, but doing it in a way where we're taking in the conversation. We're understanding what they're saying. We're listening. We're looking at the cues, the body language to really make that impact on someone. And because everything's moving so fast, because there's so much opportunity to leverage different resources and technology, we're forgetting that the most human thing to do is actually spend time and show up with quality over quantity. So for me, I'm seeing this all over, different demographics, different regions, different ages. And the thing that really hits my heart and really makes me worried and sad is the fact that this is starting at such a young age in people. And they're not having the opportunity like maybe you and I as we grew up and we spent time with kids in the neighborhood and we, I saw people more often rather than doing Zooms and, utilizing the technology where we got the opportunity to build these soft skills, right? We didn't hide behind the screen. We didn't have the opportunity to put something into AI to send a message that may not be so well received, where we got the opportunity to learn from that, right? A lot of the children, a lot of the young adults, they're skipping those moments in life where they learn what's awkward. They learn that something's off when they say something to another person, and we're not getting that energy because it's behind screens, and we're curating everything that's coming out of our mouth, and in most cases from our thumbs.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So for me, I see it in all different brackets, and it really just pains my heart because we are losing the opportunity to connect deeply, and we're racing against the clock for the advantage. But ultimately, whenever I've been in a tough situation, whenever I've struggled, whenever I needed to borrow belief from someone, it's never been something. It's always been someone.
Yeah.
So I just really hope and wish and have dedicated my life to teaching people how to connect deeper, because there is always going to be a bump in the road.
Yeah.
There's
multiple bumps.
There's always going to be a scenario, a situation. Life is not this trajectory of perfection. We are not perfect.
Yeah.
So we're going to need someone when we're in the valleys, and when we're winning, it feels so much better when you're celebrating on that mountaintop with someone else.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Why, with like the younger generation, why does it make you, what exactly like makes you sad about it?
I just see, so I was in New York City promoting the book.
Okay.
And we had an hour and a half to take the train back to Boston. And I sat down and I'm eating, an early dinner. And there's a family of 4 to the right of me eating. And I look over and the dad's scrolling, the mom's watching a movie, the older daughter is texting, and the son had no iPad, no cell phone, maybe about 5 years old.
Okay.
And he was completely being ignored. And I sat there for about 45 minutes. And it just pained me to see an opportunity to break bread with your family, whether you're at a train station, whether you're in your home, whether you're at a restaurant. And the son's looking around and just, there was no attention to their child. And it wasn't something like dad's at work and he's trying to send off this email or close a deal, right? Like, I totally get it. We're in an age where we need our phones and our laptops and our iPads to conduct business, right? But he was first looking at cars to buy. Then he was on Facebook. Then he was playing video games. And I just saw the sadness in that boy's eyes. And this is something that happened to me 10 days ago.
Yeah.
So as I see it in different scenarios, in different regions of the United States, it pains me to grow up lonely, because in my life, there was a period of time where I was very disconnected from my parents. At 14 years old, they were addicted to OxyContin. And I know the feeling of disconnection, and I know how bad it hurts.
You saw yourself as that little boy on the train?
I wouldn't say myself, because the scenario was so different, but I know what that could lead to. My disconnection was severe. I grew up, we had everything. We had the pool. My house was the place where all my friends came over, and then gone. Lose the house. Move 7 times before 18. Engagements with my parents, conversations went to a minimum. Eating cereal with water, right? Arguments over finances and money. And I felt that I was a ghost. I came in, I came out of the home. So when I think about what that can turn into, that's what pains me the most. That's what hurts my soul.
Yeah. Well, and I appreciate you sharing that. I mean, understandably so. I mean, like you said, there's a big difference between, if the dad was working, or on the phone, and you could tell it was work, or he wasn't a doctor with a critical patient at the hospital or something, you know what I mean? He was playing video games on his phone. I guess, could you just talk a little bit more about when that you first started feeling more disconnected, I'm guessing, because I read your book about when your parents started getting addicted to OxyContin. Did you have moments of feeling disconnected before they were addicted as well, or was it mainly when they started getting addicted to the drugs that disconnect with you started to happen?
It was when that happened, my whole world flipped.
Okay.
So I got a taste of what connection was.
Okay.
Right? Coming home every day and my dad throwing me ground balls in the backyard.
That's
and,
fun.
All those memories and the trajectory of my life going in a way where things were great. And then the flip side of coming home and them laying on the couch as if there wasn't a personality, there wasn't a heartbeat, there wasn't a level of connection or conversation or communication that I once experienced as a younger child.
Yeah.
So to see it, to feel what it can be, and to be in that moment and those years of not getting that anymore was very, very challenging for me.
Yeah. What do you think is the most challenging part about it?
Not feeling loved and supported, which in turn caused the self-connection with myself to dissipate at a rapid pace.
Could you talk about that more? Like, what do you mean by the self-connection?
So I was angry.
Okay.
I didn't have anybody to talk to. You know, it's not like all your friends are going through that,
Hopefully not.
you know?
Yeah.
So I kept it in.
Yeah.
And then that anger started to build out, that frustration. And then it became me looking at myself as a victim.
Okay.
And that's where everything started to go downhill.
Okay.
You know, why me? You know, why'd I get this shake? Everything was great. I mean, I remember internal conversations of I'm never gonna amount to anything. And those were hard times because once you're on that slope, I mean, you're going down fast.
Yeah. It's tough to get out of.
And as a, you know, teenager, you're already having all types of emotions.
Yeah, high school or even junior high is like, let alone, you know, having understandably the tough experience you're having, especially with that flip side of hard for anyone, right? At a young age, if someone for the whole life, their parents were addicted to drugs, right? Yours was different because you had experienced that love first, and then it like got shut off, almost like a light switch or a water spigot, however you want to describe it.
Yeah, it was very challenging, and you know, to take out that anger, that rage, I'd get in fights. I'd lose probably a majority, if not all of them, right? And it was my way of self-inflicting pain without actually hurting myself. So going through that and losing the love for myself, not being connected, not having confidence, not seeing an out to my future. That was the toughest thing to swallow. And, you know, I look at it today and I say, okay, tough times, big challenges, financial losses, this deal gone wrong. It's much easier because I got through that. But when you're in that moment, you don't know what the other side looks like. You've never experienced the other side. You have no critical thinking skills. You have nothing to bank on. You're not talking to other people. You're holding and bottling it all in. And when you do that, when you don't have a confidant in your life to share these things, to be vulnerable, to not be judged, you put yourself in a box. And that box starts to build and build and build, and one day you explode. And that explosion for me was selling drugs. That was my out. I was going to survive. I was not going to feel the pain of cereal with water. I was not going to put all of this on my parents' shoulders because I lost the confidence that they would rise up, they would support, they would be there. So I went to groups of friends, maybe not the best, but the best in those moments. People who protected me. You know, I became friends with a serial murderer, and they protected me in the drug game.
Yeah.
And it felt that was my family.
Why is that?
Well, they were like me. I was spending time with them. We were having a lot of conversations. They were older than me, right? They were kind of showing me the way. You know, I wasn't in a gang or anything, but that is a very unique group of people who also have challenges, right? Mm-hmm. That gentleman, you know, didn't have a good relationship with his parents. He found out his brother was his half brother. He ended up losing his brother, right? Like, you take these misfits from broken homes and you put them together, and there's a bond, there's connection, there's rapport, there's a certain understanding when you feel like no one else is there to talk to, no one else can understand you.
Yeah.
So you go through those scenarios, and the thing about my specific experience with that was I knew what I was doing in those moments were wrong,
Yeah.
right? So when you're doing something to survive that you know is not right, your nervous system is going haywire all the time. I mean, I remember in college, I'd be taking a test and my nervous system was so jacked up that my hands would sweat so much that I would rip the paper that I was writing on.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, that's how I always felt taking a test in college.
I even got Botox shots in my hands at one point.
Really?
88 pins with just, and
And what was that supposed to do?
it was supposed to stop the sweating.
Oh, I didn't know. I didn't know they could do that.
I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah.
I did it twice and I was like, I'm not doing this ever
sounds
again.
awful.
No, it's terrible. It's not healthy for you either.
Your hands do look very smooth. So there's some benefit to that. It's like
No wrinkles.
My hands are like still 16. I don't know how old you are, but hand gain's on point. Yeah, that's tough, man. You know, and I'm curious. Typically, anger is a secondary emotion to fear. Was there anything that you can remember that you're like afraid of when you were a kid and you started going through some of that stuff?
Not being loved.
Not being loved?
Why are my parents doing this?
Why are they doing this?
I didn't feel loved. I didn't feel safe. I mean, when you sell drugs, there's two things that are going to happen. You're going to go to prison or you're going to die, right? I was educated. I got great grades in high school. I went to college. I worked full time on salary, took night classes, you know, like all those scenarios. Like I knew I was intelligent enough to understand it. So every deal felt that at any time I could be sitting in a jail cell or I could be shot. And those are tough things when you understand what the outcome can look like.
Yeah. Well, and I'm curious because like I can there's different ways like you can think of it, right? And like, and I don't know if someone like listens to this or like I have a thought, right? But it's like people are like, well, why? There's other people's probably in your same situation, but like they didn't sell drugs, right? To where I look at more like a non-judgmental. It's like, well, to where maybe even your parents, right? It's like in your moment, let's talk about you. You were just doing the best you could with your tools you had and where you were. So like that just seemed logical to you, right? And for whatever your parents were going on, how they're dealing with things or whatever, they were just doing the best they could in that situation. And it's just unfortunate that they went through what they did. I mean, OxyContin is one of those ones that it's awful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
it's awful.
my parents weren't parents who decided to do OxyContin. You know, my dad worked for an electric company, fell off a telephone pole, broke his knee, was prescribed that by the doctor, right? My mom had part of her lung removed, was prescribed that.
Right.
And this was the epidemic, you know? And so that whole time, that whole scenario, seeing that happen, my parents still telling me not to drink, telling me not to smoke, teaching me integrity, respect. But the hardest part about learning integrity is when they were hiding it from me. Because when they told me was when I approached them. Because a friend of mine's older brother sold them street oxy and he was in the back seat.
Yeah.
So I was frustrated that the whole time you're parenting me, you're telling me to do all these things the right way, but you're not living in that integrity.
Yeah.
And that's when it was like, okay, you know, I'm going to raise myself. I don't need you. I'm going to do what I need to do to survive.
Well, that's understandably, hard, that situation, and it's tough, because like, I don't know if you've been in the situation before, but where you're telling someone, you're giving someone advice, right? And then you yourself aren't doing the advice, and yeah, man, it just had to be really tough. And how are your parents doing now?
My dad's been dead for 12 years.
Okay.
My mom's
Sorry to
doing
hear that.
good. I've got a great relationship with her.
That's good.
Getting through those scenarios, doing the work internally, forgiveness. I love her and support her. So, she came out of it on the other side.
That's good.
And, at that point you have to forgive.
Yeah.
Is the relationship worth holding on to that or maximizing the time and opportunity I have left before she passes away?
Yeah.
And I made that decision, and I had to work through that and get advice. And, people have come on my podcast that are therapists, right? And I'm like, they're coaching or teaching. And I'm like, we watch the podcast, take notes, start applying it to myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like just understanding that and being very open and aware where I need work has been very advantageous to my growth through that.
Yeah. Good, man. That's awesome. It's good to hear. I don't know if you saw Dr. Jamil's podcast, but he was a life coach, was on recently, and about halfway through he has this forgiveness exercise. It's really good. I've done it a couple of times since the podcast myself. It's very, very helpful and freeing. And if you haven't, it can be about anything. It's worth watching and listening to. Get some time to yourself. It takes about 20 minutes. It's a shortened version, but it's super, super powerful. I'm curious, did you ever blame your parents for like the situation you were in?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I was the victim, right? And until I came to reality that as a young adult, these choices are my own. I'm educated. I'm aware. There was good people in my life. I just was in this very tough time where I didn't reach for resources. I didn't know to go left or right. I put all the blame on them.
Yeah. What about, did you ever blame them for everything great that's happened in your life?
The biggest piece is my dad, when I was 10 years old, taught me what integrity was. It was a Friday night. Me and my friend were at my house doing the whole popcorn Ninja Turtles movie, right?
Yeah, you're talking about their book a little bit.
Yeah. Jumping back and forth to bed, and boom.
Yeah.
And that boom was someone who crashed their car, flipped it, and my mom ran into my bedroom to see if we were okay. My dad ran out the front door, and he ended up pulling the guy out of the car and saving his life. The car caught on fire. And the police came, and they were kind of giving him, some shit about it. They were, someone got sued. You shouldn't have touched them. You got to wait for the medical, all this stuff. And my dad was like, doing the right thing in the right moment is the most important. And that has been my definition of integrity. Does he leave that person in the car and a life gets taken right across the street from our home?
Yeah.
Or does he do what he felt called to do in that moment? Not thinking about the police, not thinking about getting sued, not thinking about if he hurt that person, but just trying to get him away from an opportunity that could take his life.
Yeah.
So that has been one of the greatest memories that I've had. And I think that's why integrity is so important to me. And I think that's why integrity is so important to connection. When you want to connect with your associates, when you want to connect internally with your employees, externally with your vendors, your clients, you make promises to them, you advise them, you align with them. And if you're not going to fulfill those things, or at least communicate that you can't fulfill those things, you're losing integrity with them, which in turn starts to separate the connection. Which in turn, if it's a client, will fire you or terminate you or start to look for other bids.
Right.
Vendors won't take your calls on the weekend if there's an emergency or an issue or a problem. Your associates will go take a job for 75 cents more an hour because you told them this was the company culture. This is in the manual. This is our core values. And all of a sudden, your turnover ratio is high. Your expense lines are increasing. your efficiency, your effectiveness, how your employees show up, what they produce, what their well-being is, not only mindset, but also body, because they're in a good state. Those things are going to benefit your organization. And we forget that it starts with connection. You know, a mentor of mine told me he believes he grew his company to 8 million in 2 years because every single supervisor met with their employees and associates once a week and didn't talk about business. Gave the opportunity for their associate to talk to them about what the meeting was about. So they would ask questions about, hey, I've got this going on at home. Hey, I made these commitments to a birthday party and a friend's party, and I'm conflicted on what to do. And then at the end, they might say, hey, I'm confused about this thing with business, or I'd like to get more training on this, right? And then they would schedule a meeting to talk about the business side of it. Well, that growth didn't happen with adding employees. That growth happened with the increase of effectiveness and efficiencies with the subset of associates they had in those moments. People will run through walls for you. People will chase you into a burning home if they believe you, they trust you, and they feel like they belong. And it's not that we want to lead them into the burning home.
Maybe probably not a good idea.
Right? It's not that we want to cause fires and issues.
Yeah.
But I mean, in your darkest days, when things are tough, when you need the extra support, the help, when you need people to stay late to finish a project, a deadline, those people will be there for you. And ultimately, the company may win. You may get bigger bonuses. You may get more opportunities. You may have a relationship where one day an associate comes to you and says, hey, I'm going to start my own business. Well, that relationship has grown so much that you can support them. You can help them. And they can also help you. Referral business, introductions, advisement, right?
Yeah.
So I think connection is going to be the biggest opportunity for growth. I also believe you can't be the greatest version of yourself by yourself. So how do we gather community? How do we build confidence? How do we understand who's an acquaintance, who's an ally, and what time and energy do we spend with those three buckets? I think if we take time each week to focus on those people, to understand where people sit in our lives, how to move them through to different categories, we're going to have a better grasp on what connections we have and what connections we need and how we can all grow as a community.
Yeah, I agree. All super good points. And you go over them like very in detail in your book, and I want to go over some of those. And just before I lose the thought as well, because it's something I just want you to consider, is if you haven't already, most times we will blame people, our parents, our circumstances, a person in general, for the bad things that happen to them, to us, right? To you. But it is only fair to blame them for the good person you have become. And so your father and mother are to blame for you becoming such a great person, even though maybe you did the opposite, right? Or it led you through some very difficult, understandable circumstances.
Yep.
It can be very empowering to blame them for the good, because you can't blame them for only one thing. That's not fair. And so it's counterintuitive, but I challenge you to think of that way if you haven't already. And I've experienced myself, right? I've been through some tough times for sure. And just by looking at someone who's like, oh, I'm not going to do that, right? You might have some, I've had some anger or resentment towards my parents at a certain time of my life, my father as well. But realize like they're just trying to do the best they could, and it's very freeing to not judge people. And then you can realize you can connect, then be like, well, he's also to blame. Like, I don't be podcasting here if my childhood was easy. You know what I mean? It just wouldn't. I wouldn't have that drive. And so these hard times they're really blessings. And I really love the path that you've been on for however long it's been, and your message. And it's crazy. I was just telling my videographer, like, this thought where I'm like, I like using AI tools, but it, in some way, and I can't describe why, it just makes you want to go the opposite way of AI to like connect and be even more personable, like in person than I can, to where one of the things you mentioned in your book is about like sending like voice notes. That's something I haven't done in a little while, but I like to do is like I actually just send like full on videos to people, kind of like Snapchat, but it's like people can rewatch it and be like, oh shit, like this is cool. If you say something grateful to someone, like some people need that and they can just watch it over and over again. And so looking for these opportunities, how could we be even the opposite of AI? Like you use it for sure, certain things to, I don't know, plan an itinerary or your calendar or whatever. But I think the companies and businesses, depending whatever your business you're in as well, outsourcing these areas where there's that opportunity for human connection causes people to lose. You know, I experienced it myself, like being in, I won't say what, like a high-end coaching program, and I'm trying to ask a question. I'm like, all I get is like your AI bot for customer support. And I'm like, I need this question answered. And it just goes to the AI bot. I'm like, this is not what a high-end paying coaching company should be doing. Like, you should at least have some sort of customer support at the end. If it's a smaller tier product, okay, but not a high-tiered coaching business. I mean, it's just you're not going to keep customers that way.
I agree. And, you know, a voice note, a video takes 30 seconds, right? And I would even advise to do a 30-second because not all people are auditory. Like for me, if you send me an audio message, I won't listen to it. I'll read it.
Same way.
Right? But if it's like 27 seconds, 28 seconds, I probably will listen to it.
Yeah.
Same with a video. You know, someone sent me a 4-minute video and I got through about a minute, right? And I just, it sounds terrible to say that, but it's a reality.
Yeah.
So like if you keep it short, but use it and understand how people receive information, then you're going to benefit and do the thing that you want to do.
Right.
Right? Because not only when you're doing those things, you're helping someone, you may be there for them in a moment they need it. But what that also does is it helps you internally. It feels good when you send someone a note and you're like, hey man, you were on my heart. Been thinking about you. You know, how was your weekend? I saw, you know, weather was beautiful near the beach, you know, blah, 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 right? Hope you're having a great day, man. I'm so grateful to know you. Really appreciate our friendship. I don't know about you, man, but like, look at even my body language as I said that.
Yeah,
right?
Just, make an observation. You have a lot more energy. You're smiling. I mean, anyone who watches can see. Yeah, I mean, it makes you think of if you write like a gratitude letter, or like this in the case you're sending gratitude to someone, it actually does more scientifically for the person sending it than it even does to the person who receives it. So yeah, by sending love and doing that, it's awesome. It benefits you. I mean, you're aware of it, right? More than people would even realize. Now, something I want to go over that I'm actually super excited about, to where I wonder if we could even like teach people. I think this would be a great clip because I think most people don't even know. Can you teach people how to use the send later function on their iPhones for messages?
Let's go. Yes. So I'm actually doing a workshop on this in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
I'll send you the date.
Yeah, cool.
When you're in text messages, well, do I have my phone?
Maybe we can do like a recording of a phone.
Yeah, let's do that
or something.
Yeah,
because it's actually super cool.
Yeah,
I almost used it on you last night. I'm like, go ahead and go through it though.
So you pull out your phone, you go to the text message as if you were going to start typing, and I think it's a plus sign on the left. You click that and you just scroll down and it says send later. And then when you write your text message or your voice memo, however you want to do it, at the top, you can choose the date and time that it will actually send. So for instance, I don't know about you, but like at night, I'm kind of just relaxing and chilling. And when I start to get in that theta, maybe, you know, I start thinking about someone, or someone pops into my head and I'm like, well, I'm not going to send this text message at 11 o'clock at night for two reasons. One, if I really want to impact someone, they may not see it or get it. Right. The other thing is I don't want to create a negative impact where their phone dings because it's on the nightstand and it wakes them up.
Yeah.
So I'll schedule it for a certain time, right? Maybe the next morning, maybe the next afternoon. I talk about this in the book where I did a send later before I fell asleep at like 10 o'clock at night for 3 a.m. because my buddy just had a kid and I knew that he took the middle of the night shift with the baby. And it was like a funny meme. So I'm like, I'm not going to stay up till 3 a.m.,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I'm an early riser, hit the
Right.
gym type of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But how can you impact someone in the moment that they need it most?
Yeah.
But you can send it and schedule it. And it's one of those things where I always want to capture the idea. I always want to capture the congruence with my heart when I'm thinking about someone, because we all know we're busy, we're distracted. There's a million screens, there's a million things going on, and we're going to forget.
Yeah. Now, can you, this makes me think, so like say you schedule a text, right? Can you unschedule the text?
Yeah, you can change it and edit it.
Because if I was like, oh, let me schedule a text to my ex, then you'd be like, oh no, next day, like that's a bad
Yeah,
idea.
don't be having too many beverages on a Thursday night and thinking you guys are going to get back together and you wake up with a bigger thing than a hangover tomorrow.
We're meant to be. I have to send this, Yeah, unscheduling that would probably be a good idea. Or you could like type out like an angry text and then just like, oh, I'll schedule it for tomorrow.
Edit it before it sends.
Yeah, or just not, like, okay, no, that's not gonna be helpful.
Yeah.
So now that's super cool. I even thought I would like maybe I'll like schedule a thank you for coming to the podcast today. I'll schedule it like a couple hours after the podcast today, But I'll mess with it later. But it's super neat though. I really like it. It's like cool. Like, man, you could also probably troll your friends, like drop them SpongeBob memes on the hour for like weeks on end. Just absolutely terrorize your friends. Oh man,
which is connection because you have that relationship with them, right?
I'm totally gonna,
I've got a couple of confidants in my life that I want to terrorize all the time, right?
Oh, man, I got a couple friends I can think of. I'm totally gonna do that. Yeah, it's gonna be amazing. So thank you for that.
Let's go. Yeah. Not so much to your buds, but yeah, they'll enjoy it.
They had it coming.
Yeah.
Your book is called Connect or Die. Who's dying?
So I believe that you are internally dying if you are outsourcing your genius to AI, if you are not utilizing it to the advantage of connection, if you are automating everything with no heart and soul. I mean, let's just be realistic. A machine doesn't have a heart. A software doesn't have a soul, right? They're pulling from a large language model of what's being fed into it and what isn't being fed into it. So for me, when I just rely on those tools and I don't maybe edit it, or I'm looking to do something quick because I'm busy and I don't have time, but I want to do this thing, that never lands the way that I actually want it to land. If you're inviting, like I invited you to that workshop a couple minutes ago, right? If I'm inviting someone and I have this canned AI email that goes out, that's not actually causing the impact that I want it to have because I'm doing this to provide value.
Right.
It's a free event. There'll be appetizers, drinks. It'll be about connection. You'll meet people. I'll teach you some stuff, right? Like, am I really putting my best foot forward if Gemini or ChatGPT or Grok or Claude is sending something that I want to come from my heart? I believe in order to talk to your heart, it has to come from my heart.
Yeah. And if you know me, leading with appetizers is a great way to my heart. So you'd start with that. I mean, it's just fact.
Everybody likes food.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody likes food.
Yeah. Yeah.
But think about it, right?
Yeah.
Now, if I tell you why I'm doing this event, AI can't tell me that.
No.
Right? It can only make something up based on someone else's input of why they did an event. That might be titled similar, might have similar activations, might be in a similar geographic location. But I'm doing that event, and this is what I would write in my email that's going to go out next week. I had a book launch party. I did this activation. People loved it. But the biggest thing that I realized was a lot of people didn't know how to use some of the features. I made an assumption. So instead of making an assumption, I want to show you step by step, and we're also going to practice it with someone you don't know. So you're going to send them a message for a minute from now. It's going to work. You're going to get validation that you now have the skill to do it. Then you're going to go across the room and send them a voice memo of what you learned about them, what you're excited about, that you now know about them, and you're going to schedule that for a different time. So that way, in a day, 2 days, 3 days, whenever you schedule it, someone's going to get a nice surprise from someone they just met, and then it's going to lead to the opportunity of follow-up. You're going to engage back in a conversation, and maybe you connect again. Maybe you get coffee. Maybe you go see a movie. Maybe you go for a walk at Radnor Lake. Like whatever you do, now we're brokering the opportunity to connect deeper in the future by teaching and doing something today. So that will be a story in the email of why I'm putting on this event, which is going to land deeper than what AI is going to tell me to teach this feature on the iPhone.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think it's just, I think there's just a big opportunity at the moment, or I almost wonder if like people are gonna like revolt against AI at a certain point and be like, you know what? I mean, I feel like there's already enough like just like fake like shit in the world. You know what I mean? We don't need that taken to like a whole nother level, you know? And people know, I mean, when I'm posting like reels or stuff like that, I almost can like you can start to read like someone's like caption underneath of it. And you're like, oh, it's AI. So like, I'll just write my own because it's like, there's almost no point in writing a caption sometimes because people are like, oh, I'm just not even going to read that because it's just nonsense. You know, it's like you didn't write this. Like it's a certain structure. You know, we're developing an eye for it. You know, people can see like, oh, this is nonsense. You know, so like why even bother? You know, it's losing like a sense of art to it, I guess. You know,
it's being adopted by more and more people. So like in 2020, 21, 22, 23, there was a subset of marketers, right? People who were were savvy around tech and they were using it.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, that person's the smartest. Well, then what happens is you write a check that you can't cash.
Yeah.
And then people are like, well, online says this, but in person you're this, or on a call you're this. Okay, I'm a little fuzzy on this or this person. And then the adoption of AI, now you're seeing it and using it so much that when someone says, not this, not this, not this, you're like, oh, AI wrote that. Or it's a this or that statement, an X or Y. You know, there's a million phrases. Everything's so done quietly.
Yeah, or flyers, like certain flyers.
All the event flyers, they look the same.
Oh, it's like, oh, yeah, theirs looks like this. Where have I seen that before? Oh, yeah, everyone has the same, like, template or whatever it is. You know, it's almost like there's definitely a lack of creativity. Because I feel like some people that are really creative could change things in a way to where it's like it's not going to look like the other stuff. To where you at least have some awareness around the creativity of it. It's like, dude, if you just use this the way it first gives it to you, it's going to look like everyone else's stuff. Like take the extra step or make yours unique or something. Like, so doesn't look like, because it's drowned out in noise, you know, and there's already enough noise, and especially in social media or starting to get, you know, in business or whatever. Or people are, I think, they're just getting lazy, or it's like, it makes me think of, like when computers first came out, I don't know if you knew this, they did a study that basically showed that like, computers didn't make people more productive. Like even all the software and all this learning, it's like where AI, I'm curious in the future, they do a study if it's going to do the same thing. If like it takes someone like, you know, 30 minutes to get the perfect Instagram post or whatever caption, it's like, dude, you could just wrote that in like a minute. Like this is not making you more productive. Just like come up with something, post it, you know, more productive just by doing it yourself and more creative as well. Like why wouldn't you just do it? So I think a lot of people are doing that because it feeds this overthinking thing, and I think it can become dangerous when it comes to relationships. You know, if it's just if you're telling a person something about, say, like a personal relationship, and if a language model is just agreeing with you, and the person will be like, "What are you doing? That person's great. You're screwing it up." You know, versus the language model will be like, "Oh no, you should get out of that relationship, or you should do this to say this to your partner." And it's like any other human would be like, dude, what are you doing? Like, this is clearly the wrong move.
What husband or wife finds out that their spouse is using AI to respond to them that's going to be satisfied or happy about that scenario? Like, how does that even, it makes me feel disgusting just saying it out loud, because there is a reality to that today.
Yeah.
And like, feel your emotions. Hindering your emotions is only going to hurt you in the long run, right? Like bottling things up. You know, I'm not saying go, you know, have anger and scream at people, but like be human to an element. You know, like if you're frustrated, share that frustration rather than watering it down, bottling it up, you know, burying these emotions and, you know, strapping them to the basement floor of your body and your soul is not going to be good for your physical upkeeping and makeup, right? Like that is going to hurt you in the long run. So like mess up, jump off the handle a little bit, say the wrong thing, because that's where the growth happens. You know, you learn from that, but you also get some of those emotions out rather than hindering them, which is causing internal issues.
Yeah. I think as long as you're aligned on the goals, like, you know, in any relationship, like, hey, the end goal is to get over this argument, right? I think it does have a purpose. And I think you mentioned in your book to where it's like, if you're super mad at the moment, it's at least can be helpful to put an AI to be like, to vent or like consider yourself to be wrong. You know, it's like, hey, look, let me consider the possibility I'm wrong in the situation. Because a lot of people don't do that. Like, oh, I'm right, they're wrong. They don't even consider it, you know, to where if you can use it to maybe learn something about yourself, I think that can be helpful.
I would agree.
But you're right. Focusing on the connection, showing your emotion, definitely bottling up is not good. I don't think it's good to be, let's say, completely unfiltered. Because like you can be authentic and genuine. I can tell you exactly how I feel, but it will be more well received if I show a little bit of restraint. And that actually takes more skill. It's like driving down the highway, right? In Nashville, it's like, I want to go 100 miles an hour, but it's much harder to set the cruise at 70 or whatever, you know, showing that restraint is a lot harder.
Totally.
In your book, you have a lot of different skills and technique about body language and the voice notes and different things. If you had to pick one that you could teach someone, what do you think the most valuable one would be when it comes to communication?
So if you're engaging in a conversation, when someone introduces themselves, do you always remember their name?
No, I do not.
Right? Most of us don't.
No, I just don't.
So the biggest skill that I've learned over time is in order to actively listen, you have to be silent. But most people think silent talking. You have to silence your mind. So understanding someone's name and then looping their name back to them in your response not only helps you remember it, but allows that person to be heard and seen. So like that skill, and I do this on stages, I do this at events, in conversation, a majority of people don't remember the person's name. Now, on the flip side, if you're introducing yourself, introduce your full name, right? Every time I've done this, people are like, Jim Morris, right? And it's just so now they're saying my name out loud, which is helping them remember it. When you remember each other's names, it's going to allow the conversation to have mirror neurons firing back and forth, right? Because now there's this reflection thing of like, okay, I know who I'm talking to. They know who they're talking to. And then mirroring their name to them and using their name is a skill that will help that bond grow faster.
Yeah, I like doing that. Like, it's funny how people react. Like, I'll introduce myself. Oh, I'm Jake Turner. Like, oh, Jake Turner. This guy says, oh, he says his last name. And some people are like, oh, this is Jake Turner. I'm like, I don't know. I like my name anyway. But that's interesting. You do that as well. But finding a unique way to introduce yourself, I think, is important too. Because some people are like, you know, kind of like they're not even like serving up themselves in a way that's like easily received as well too. So that's cool you use the last name too. I really like that. So it's important. I think listening too is just, I mean, most people, when you talk to them, they don't listen. They just don't, you know. I don't know if you can tell, but like, I really listen to you. I play a little bit of a game where one of my values, I think, of just maybe feeling successful, right? Every time I let you finish what you're saying or whoever I'm sitting in front of, then I feel successful. And so it's very easy. And I also like will be like, I'm just present with Jim at the moment. And so it makes people feel seen and heard, which everybody wants. Now I have to be kind of careful though, because sometimes most recent podcast, I get so concentrated, I don't even look at the clock, and I'm like, oh shoot, it's like 2 hours, and then it becomes an actual like legit problem. So
Been there
try
for
to
sure.
balance it a little bit. Real quick before we keep going, if you've been nodding along to anything we've said in the last 30 minutes, and if anything hit, I want to ask you something. Most people who watch the podcast and get real value from it never hit subscribe, not because they don't want to, but simply because nobody asked. So I'm asking if anything in this conversation gave you one idea, one shift, one moment where you thought, that's exactly it, hit subscribe right now. It's the one free thing you can do to keep this going. And if we've earned it, we'll keep earning it every single week.
Well, I think in order to have compassionate curiosity, you actually have to understand and materialize what you're hearing that someone's sharing with you. And I think the biggest issue is we feel that we always have to have an answer immediately, that we have to respond quickly, and that if a period of time between what you say and when I respond, I call it the 7-second pause. It's really hard to do 7 seconds, but in that 7 seconds before I respond, people feel like, oh, I'm dumb, or my body's forcing me to respond quickly. But actually, if you pause after you say something, people actually feel that your brain's working, you're thinking it through. So like if we just met each other and you said, hey, I do this and I do that, I would probably maybe do this.
Yeah.
So that's what you do. How long, dude, that's amazing. How long have you been doing that? And then you answer the question and you may say something else. And then I mirror that back to you and ask another question. Now you've been telling me things for 10 minutes about you and I haven't said a word. When you get the opportunity, people love talking about themselves. And if they feel comfortable about it, if they feel that you're interested, if you are compassionate and curious, and it's real, right? You're not doing this to manipulate. You're not doing this and just ripping off all these questions at someone, right? Because like I've read all the sales books and they're like, get to question 7 and 8 and 9. And you're just asking questions to ask questions. Mm-hmm. If you're not listening and asking a good question based on what someone just told you, then you're not compassionate with your curiosity. You're just living in a curious state. That's a huge difference. So like when someone's sharing all this stuff about them, and everybody asks me this question, they're like, well, Jim, if I will go to these events, I want to connect with people, I want to tell them what I'm doing. What if I never get the opportunity to share about myself? If you have compassion and curiosity and make someone feel heard, valued, and seen, then they are 100% at some point in the conversation going to ask about you, because the relationship has developed way faster than if we did this ping pong thing. What do you do? Okay, this is what I do. Okay, where'd you go on vacation recently? Cool. What do you like to do for fun? Cool, right? And I learned that Ford method, right? Ask about family, occupation, recreation, and then dreams. And I tell everybody, go right for the D. Go for the D, baby.
Going for the D's.
Going for the D
is advice to live by.
But get to their dreams.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's not the fluffy stuff. And whenever I talk about connection, whenever I talk about these strategies, this isn't like the feel-good topic stuff, like the fluffy stuff, right? This is the intersection of developing your future opportunities. This is the intersection of saving someone's life. This is the intersection of giving someone a nugget in the moment that they need it and making someone feel good, which in turn can turn into many opportunities. Whether it's an introduction, if you're single, to someone and you're dating, you want to get married. It could be a partnership. It could be an investment opportunity. It could be your next job. It could be an experience you never even knew about that could be your most valuable, memorable experience in your life to the day you die, because you engaged in a deep conversation and someone felt vulnerable enough to share the reality of what they're doing and what they're building.
Yeah, I think being real and like you said, being vulnerable and tailoring that. Or I mean, most people, if you just ask them like, "Oh, how you doing?" They'll be like, "Good," you know. To where sometimes you be like, I'm all right. I had this, whatever. I'll say that. And, if that's the case, right? It's not what someone wants to hear. Then sometimes it's not super well received, but it's honest at least. So where it's like, well, okay, that is what it is.
And if I'm compassionate enough, then I'm going to dig into that. I'm going to pull back some layers, and it's going to grow our relationship much, much faster,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But they have to feel comfortable.
Yeah,
they
of
have
course.
to feel the energy transfer.
Yeah.
And I believe that, everybody wants to be vulnerable, but if you don't love yourself enough, it's harder to be vulnerable, right? That self-connection needs to happen first, so that way you can put yourself in a position to connect deeper with others. I'm someone who probably has like 90% vulnerability, right? Like there's nothing off the table for this conversation that's going to go to thousands and thousands of people and impact them. We can go wherever we want to.
Yeah.
But that took so much work of me loving myself, removing the guilt of selling drugs, the shame, some of the mistakes I made in life, some of the business failures I've had. And in order to love yourself and connect, you have to do that work. And I think that's hard.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
But if someone can give 25% more vulnerability than they're typically doing or used to, or push themselves just a little bit more, it's going to open up those opportunities for connection.
Yeah, and I think that type of vulnerability should be rewarded, just like any sort of effort, especially when it comes to relationships. You can't be giving up 50% vulnerability and expecting back 100% effort and love from a relationship. Like I think with certain aspects, not that you need to earn or deserve love, but to certain depths of relationships or effort we're getting in, you could compare it to business, right? Like you're not going to get it or shouldn't even deserve 100% effort from your employee if you're only putting forth 50% effort into them. That's just not fair. I just think that's just, you reap more than you sow. If you're sowing hardly any, like you're not going to get back this great reward. And I don't think you should.
I would agree. I would 100% agree. I think communication is the lifeline to relationships. I think that you've got to at least share enough to start to develop something deeper than, those conversations you were talking about. I call them cotton candy conversations.
Oh, why cotton candy?
Because they're fluff. They feel sweet, but they're terrible for you. They don't develop a relationship, right? And they're easy, right? Grabbing a thing of cotton candy and taking a bite, like that's easy.
Yeah, it's not going to satisfy you though.
It doesn't, and it's not good for you.
It's just there's nothing to it. It doesn't satisfy you, and it's not good for you. Why ever eat cotton candy again? It kind of ruined cotton candy for me, but it's not good for you anyway. So why?
Dude, they sell it in the mall in Opryland. There's like a cotton candy vending machine.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my daughter was like, "Oh," I'm like, "No, we're not doing that. That's terrible."
Do you understand what this represents?
Yeah, there's so much more depth. I'll explain it to you right now. You won't understand it because you're 3, but we'll get there.
You know what?
Starting them early.
You know what cotton candy I do love is Cane Prime has like a cotton candy bacon. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
They have bacon and they put cotton candy on it and like melts on it. I'm like, okay, I will still accept this cotton candy.
I'll eat anything on bacon.
But I think it's
bacon.
But I think it's because the base of the relationship is bacon.
That's it.
I think that's
Let's go.
I think that's what makes the most sense. So this may be kind of a different question, but you've basically built your whole life making other people feel seen. Has anyone ever asked you, like, do you feel seen?
Yeah, there was a time where I was pouring from an empty cup, 100%. Where I was not having boundaries. I was not setting expectations. And that hurt a lot because I was pouring into people and wasn't really getting anything in return. I was feeling used. I was feeling abused. I was feeling taken advantage of. And I think you can love on so many people, but you have to have your boundaries. I'll give you a perfect example. I just released the book, right? I'm talking about connection. I want to help people. I own a company called Impact Effect, right? And I want to create positive impact. Well, a lot of people have reached out that I don't know online and want to get on phone calls and need help and all these things and have this expectation that my time, my energy is going to be an immediate yes. And I'm going to get on this free coaching call, or I'm going to do this or that. And a couple of years ago, I would have done that, but that drained my energy. And so I have to be very strategic. And in order to do that, I have to have boundaries. I have to set expectations. Just because I put out a book on connection doesn't mean that I want to connect with everybody.
It's true, yeah.
And doesn't mean that I have to.
Yeah, of course.
Doesn't mean I align with everybody. Doesn't mean my schedule and my energy permits with your schedule and your energy. So that took time and realization over the last few years to prepare myself, to put myself out there, be vulnerable, and to ultimately a year and a half ago define that this is what I'm going to talk about on every stage. Every keynote is going to be around connection to grow revenue, effectiveness, efficiency, create culture, belonging. But that doesn't mean that I need to connect with every single person who sends me a random DM or reads my book. Now, I would love to do that, but at what point do I not have a cup to pour from for my 2 kids, my wife, my confidants who are there for me, my allies who support me and recommend me and refer me, and even some of my acquaintances that I think our relationship will grow and go deeper into those different buckets. So it was hard. For me, I think the support of my wife and making her proud and my family proud and doing things that are difficult and suffering through new ventures, and that really allows me to have a lot of gratitude and for me to feel very heard, very valued, and very seen. Finances are always something that we need to survive. And when my finances were low and a couple years ago, and I had 3 business deals go sideways, hundreds of thousands of dollars, rolling change at the kitchen table to buy diapers for my daughter. I definitely was feeling lonely, feeling like a loser, not feeling valued, not feeling heard, seen. A lot of people in my life that I thought were allies and confidants disappeared, right? I wasn't traveling as much. I wasn't going out as much. I didn't have the funds to, support some of the things that I was doing, sponsoring, charity events, things like that. And it was a dark, tough time for me in those moments. I think that's why I believe connection is so important, is because we're not going to always be on the mountaintop. We're going to stumble. We're going to fall. We're going to plummet. And to not have people that see your behavior change, see you're kind of low energy, you're not typically yourself, that aren't going to check in with you, that aren't going to probe you and get to the truth, it can get really dark.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it sounds like you figured out to pull yourself out of that, which is great. Setting boundaries is a big thing, to where you're right. Like I have either people I invite to the podcast, or like we'll just back out last minute sometimes. I'm like, dude, this is a whole production. Like I'll remind them, like, maybe you understand, like, this may not be another opportunity, if someone like the day of or day before cancels. It's like, this isn't like my videographer doesn't live in my house and just like wakes up and comes upstairs and we just shoot a podcast. It's just, it doesn't work that way, and, but I mean, people who aren't doing it, who aren't in it, they don't understand, everything that's involved. I mean, you can probably pick up a lot of nuances, that we do. That's just because you do it, and that's where the appreciation comes. And it's not your, like you said, responsibility to to message every single person, you'll completely like drain yourself dry. And I think that's maybe could be like old people pleasing habits or something, or whatever it is. You don't owe that to them. You know what I mean? You're going to be successful either way. I think even more so by focusing your time and your energy more so.
I would agree. And I've been through the podcast thing, same exact thing that you're talking about. And, you know, it's frustrating, but I think it's very similar to what you said of like, they may not understand. Like I've even had someone who has a podcast. I'm like, hey, you're 10 minutes late. And they're like, oh, I couldn't get a ride. I'll grab an Uber. I'll be there in 40 minutes. And it's like, that just cost me $250 that hour that you're late, you know?
Yeah.
So I think, you know, understanding that there's not alignment in some of those people, giving grace in some opportunities,
Of course.
but it also depends on how you communicate.
Yeah.
If someone says, I apologize, I messed up the time, I'm super sorry, all right, there's grace there, right?
Yeah.
But if someone just makes an assumption that I'm going to wait 45 minutes for them to take an Uber to the studio, doesn't apologize, doesn't acknowledge the tardiness, then I'm making a decision and putting up a boundary that we're not aligned.
Yeah.
Right. And for me, one of my top strengths, you know, Cliff Finder's, you know, strengths test is strategic. I'm very strategic with my time. So I know that not all people are, but if I over communicate on the front end, if I send you the follow-up email, right? And I will use AI and automation for that because it's a generic, direct to the point.
Yeah.
Then there's really no excuse. I've kind of covered the fact of I've communicated this. I've told you how important it is. And we're not aligned if you're just going to operate in that realm or that world. And that's okay. I don't need to be aligned with everybody. I would love to be. I want to be. But there's a reality behind there. And by putting up that boundary and saying we cannot reschedule, I apologize.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I hate you. Doesn't mean I won't shake your hand at an event. Doesn't mean I'll ignore you. But I'm not going to carve out another $250 for the studio to have you come in because you didn't respect the commitment you made. You don't have integrity around it. And you just didn't apologize. Now, listen, I am someone who messes up times, right? Not very often, but I do. Dude, when I respond back to someone, I am like, I apologize. I'm so sorry. I feel terrible. This isn't like me. I understand if you don't want to give me another chance or want to reschedule, but I would really look forward to that. This is not typical, but I did have something come on. Maybe I just didn't get on my calendar. I'm so sorry, but I totally get it.
Yeah.
Every time I send that message, someone's like, no problem. Shit happens.
Yeah. Yeah. It's totally different to where like, even today, kind of running a little bit over, and you're like still like coming from that same place of like I totally like respect your time and like hey, it's just gonna be, you know, not just like yeah, he'll wait for me till I'm done. You know what I mean? It's just such a different attitude and energy behind it as well too. That it's just not as well received. It's almost like oh, they don't care, or it could be like a little bit of entitlement too. I don't know, maybe a mix. It's just I don't know.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
What it is, you know.
I would agree with that. But like, you know, with this situation, you acknowledge me at your first opportunity.
Yes, of course.
Right? Like
Yeah.
I get podcasting. I've got a show, right? So like, I'm like, dude, no problem, man. All good.
Yeah.
You know, but I think there's a reality and then there's an assumption. And you didn't assume it was cool. You talked to me. You communicated.
Right. Exactly.
We're good. Not a big deal.
Yeah.
I'm here. Let's do this thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you seem super cool, but like, I don't know. It's not, you should like assume it right away. Like, oh, no. Yeah, for sure.
So I just think it's communication and, you know, understanding, putting yourself in that person's situation, right? Like, do you want to get stood up on a date? No, you don't want to get stood up on a business meeting or a podcast or any of that stuff either. So like understanding how that feels for the other person and then acknowledging that, they're going to be like, oh, this person gets it. They're cool.
Yeah.
No big deal.
Yeah.
And stuff happens. We're not perfect.
Yeah.
Right? I said that earlier in the show.
Yeah, it does. And like some, you know, I think of like future coaching clients. It's like offer some like a free like 2 to 3 hour coaching session, but with the prerequisite, it's like if you're 1 minute late, like we will not do it. Because then it sets up the standard ahead of time. Like, dude, you're not gonna be late for a coaching session, and then it's gonna make people more committed, and then they're more successful. So some things can seem harsh, but it's like, especially like high performers, it's like you want something, you want to be the same, or you want to take what you're doing and take it to the next level. It's like, okay, well then we'll do something different.
Well, it's those little micro moments that stack and stack and stack. So like if you're doing that here, where else are you doing it in your business?
Right.
Where else are you doing it in your relationships?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's ultimately integrity. I talk about that in the book,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the fork in the road.
Right.
All right, you've made the decision to go right.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're driving down the street, and where are you drifting into the wrong lane?
Mm-hmm.
Where are you going over the road markers?
Right.
Those road markers are you compromising with your integrity.
Yeah.
And it's not the fact that the little thing happened, it's the stacking of those things. So when you need to show up with integrity the most, you deflect it and make the wrong decision that not only will hurt you, but ultimately can hurt others in a bigger capacity. And that's the toughest thing about integrity, is holding the wheel.
Yeah. 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 Or the standards for yourself. I mean, it's so easy for someone to look at like someone's life and it's such a complete train wreck. Like, how did you get here? Well, it's a slow drift. You see someone whose house is like, there's a hoarder and they have cockroaches and the sinks are full of dishes and it's just, the smell is outrageous. And it's like, this didn't happen overnight. This happened over a long time. They're depressed and this happened, or maybe they got addicted to Oxycontin and whatever. And they all of a sudden are in a place where like, they might even look at where they're at, but it's like they've dug a hole so deep. It's like, how do I get back out of this? It didn't happen. It wasn't like one event. It's that, like you said, the goal markers just drift and drift and drift. I want to talk about loneliness. It is such an epidemic at the moment. What advice do you have to get people to connect more when we're basically swimming in this pool of loneliness these days with AI?
I think that your relationships are going to serve you in the moments that you're going to need the most. So if you're someone who seems very isolated, that's probably because you didn't love on enough people, connect with enough people, check in with enough people. So it's really hard to live a life where you don't have relationships who see pattern change or behavior change and will check in with you. Now, the easiest thing if you're lonely is to start to love on people, right? A mentor of mine told me one day when I was dead broke and feeling lonely and stressed, he said, every day wake up and love on 5 people. Send messages, ask them how they're doing, just pour into people. And that changed everything for me, because not only did it make me feel good, but we started to engage in conversation and build deeper relationships. So I think, it sounds cliche or generic. It's like, well, you're lonely, go build relationships.
Yeah, go get,
right?
Yeah, I want to be with someone. Well, just go be with someone then.
But detach yourself from the outcome of that communication. Just do it because it makes you feel better. It makes you feel good. And those people are going to love back on you. Mm-hmm. It's not go run out to a networking event and I got to go meet 100 people. I'm lonely. There is hundreds of people in your phone already that you have a relationship with. Go strengthen the relationship. Send the voice memo, send the video, send the text message, pick up the phone, call them, right? And it's the same thing that I would tell an early stage entrepreneur. There's $1 million sitting in your text messages right now. You just have to engage in those relationships. Mm-hmm. You have to make the ask. You have to ask someone if they know someone that could help you, that could support you, that needs your product, that needs your service, right? Like those are already in your phone. Now, maybe if you're like 12 years old and,
don't even have a phone.
Yeah, like, right? But let's be realistic here,
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think reaching out and loving on someone else is how to beat the isolation trap in those moments where you feel the loneliness.
Yeah, I think pouring out love or sometimes it's like, I was at this like 4th of July party recently, and like there's this couple, and this one girl was like, right before she left, she said, go out to the guests, and he was like, yeah, well, because she wanted a community of women, you know, to form a community of women. So I think of someone in mind, you know, I'll send them your way, you know. I kind of just like ask, and I didn't, I knew the host, I didn't really know them, but I just kind of asked like, oh, like, what are you trying to do? She's like, well, I want to form a community of women, and I think it was around, they're just, who are Christian or whatever. I can't remember what it was. Let's use that just as an example. I was like, oh, I was like, well, why don't you create the community? And she's like, yeah, I think you're right. You know, I'm like, I mean, why not? You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I mean, because there's some other Christian woman, I guess, who's sitting around saying the thing, oh, I wish there was a community, you know? And sometimes if you create a community, these people can get drawn to it a lot quicker than you think. And it's like, oh, just build the thing that you want anyway. And then you can build it how you want, you know?
I would 100% agree. As you're saying that, it reminds me of, everybody's like, well, how'd you get into speaking? I built my own stage. First keynote I did was at my event.
Yeah. Perfect. Right.
I'm like, I don't know anybody who's going to put me on stage. I don't have any footage. I haven't done a keynote before. Right.
Wouldn't that be something if someone told you couldn't perform, like you couldn't speak on your own stage? Be like, bro, I did everything. I even made the stage. Like, at least speak on my own stage.
Yeah.
But yeah, it makes sense.
And it was tough. It was vulnerable. It was real. It was, I was nervous. I felt like I was putting on a performance. I scratched everything right before it and just poured from my heart. And that was the moment that I realized I want to do this forever because of the impact it had. And it allowed me to work through some of my trauma with my parents. When I did that speech, it was Radiate Positivity in a Negative World. That was the title. It was the first time I shared publicly about my parents, so much so that my girlfriend at the time, who became my wife, she didn't even know that story. The first time she heard it was on that stage.
Oh, wow. What? That was it. I bet that was an interesting conversation afterwards. Like,
yeah. I was like, you know, but she kind of knew like the relationship, you know, was fractured.
It wasn't great.
But she didn't know the depth. But sharing that allowed me to have such deep conversations after I got off that stage with people that I didn't know some of the struggles they were having. And some of the stuff was addiction in their family or their son or their friend, but like there was conversations around my mom's sick and I need to radiate positivity. Had nothing to do with drugs or addiction, but it opened up the mind for someone to realize I'm struggling and I need to radiate positivity.
I'm sure it improved the relationship with you and your girlfriend. Obviously, it led to you guys getting married.
Yeah, a couple months later, man.
Oh, really?
Married and kids.
Oh,
yeah,
wow. That's crazy. Had you proposed at that point?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Probably good for her to know that before you get married, I guess.
Yeah. We probably had probably led to a good discussion before we tied the knot, you know?
Yeah.
Put it all out there.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, this is my emotional body count. It's about time you know. Well, it's good.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's really good. Let's see.
4 years next week, anniversary.
That's awesome, man. Congrats.
Yeah.
And you have kids? At least a kid?
I have a 3.5 and a 1.5-year-old.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. What's it like being a dad?
It's love that's unexplainable, that you cannot feel anywhere else. And you never know when your kids are going to provide that or when they're going to show up or how they're going to show up for you. You know, Ellie ultimately saved my life in one of the darkest moments that I ever had.
Yeah.
Do
you mind sharing that, please? Because it's a really powerful story for the book. I think a lot of people can get a lot of value out of it. And we talked about it before, but if you don't mind, sharing as much as you can about it, I think it's be super helpful to someone listening. Yeah,
I was in a very tough financial situation. I had just had my first child. I just got married. I was like, my wife didn't marry a loser. All these things are going sideways. Couldn't really control them, kind of out of the blue, lost a bunch of deals, money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, credit card debt, literally had no cash in the bank, and was just having really dark thoughts very dark, the darkest you could probably have. And I'm in my kitchen and I have my back turned and I'm going through it, man. Like, it just, even going back there right now, like, it was a very tough time.
Yeah. You want to take your own life.
Yeah, I wanted to end it all. And I'm having these thoughts and I'm going through it in my mind and I'm visioning it all ending. And my daughter, she's wearing this little yellow sundress. She's, 2 years old. And she walks up to me and says, "Daddy, God made you special." And I turned around and cute as can be, blonde, blue eyes, smiling. And I, did that come from the divine to her in that moment to share it with me? Was God using her as a vessel? Did someone tell her that in a grocery store one day or at preschool? If it was someone on this earth, someone had told her that, which in turn she had told me in the moment that I needed it most. My wife has a husband. My 2 kids have a dad. My best friends have a best friend. Because of that moment in those 10 seconds. And for me, it was like hearing that, it was like I took off a weighted jacket. A weighted jacket that not physically I felt, well, physically, but also in my heart and my soul. And those thoughts were gone instantaneously. And I just, someone impacted her to create the ripple effect to impact me. And I believe that every action, everything we say has a positive or negative impact. And I would call that ripple the impact effect.
I think I see the connection here. Impact Effect podcast.
Impact Effect podcast, Impact Effect conference. Yep.
Yeah.
Because I want to create those positive ripples, and we never know how far that goes out, and we'll never know who that actually affects. But even just good energy transfer, right? Like this podcast today, right? I'm going to a friend's house right up the road after this. I'm going to be full of good energy. I'm going to be fired up, right? Like this engagement, this conversation, this start of a new relationship with you and I is going to transfer positive energy to everything I do for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And I may say something to him or another friend or someone, because I'm in a good spirit, good energy, that could even ripple further along and impact someone else. And it may not be today. It may not be tonight. It could be tomorrow. It could be in 3 years. It could be in 6 years. It could be in 10 years. I mean, my dad 22 years ago impacted me around integrity. And I share that from stages now.
It's awesome. Yeah.
So I just think that those tough moments really, I realized that how important it is to love on people and connect with them and to realize and have awareness that everything you do and say, there's no neutrality. It's going to cause positivity or negativity. And if I can live a life and I'm not perfect and I make mistakes and I feel into some emotions sometimes, but if I can have awareness around that, if I can focus on that just a little bit more every day, then God only knows how far that ripple goes. That pebble I throw in the water, how far that thing expands across the surface of that lake. I want to live a life where that impact continues and continues and continues and stacks. Because someone out there in a moment, maybe it's very similar to mine, maybe it's a little bit different, maybe it's drastically different. Maybe that changes the trajectory of their decision making and ultimately their life.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's such a beautiful story, and
It's getting choked up there, man. I didn't want to full on crying session. Might have to get the tissues out.
Oh, why not?
It's a tough time to revisit, and you know, it's I start to think about if I did it, and the effect it would have, and that's not a good feeling for me. And
Yeah.
I'm just so grateful that that didn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I want to get to meet you. You know, I can cry for you on camera if you want. Maybe to make you feel better. I'll think it's something sad. It doesn't take much for me to I can think it's something, you know. I mean, just having a missed opportunity to sit here with you today would be sad enough to make me cry. So I'm just glad you're here, man, and you're in a safe space. I don't know if you can feel that or not, but you know, we just met, but I'm here for you, and you know, whatever you need, and here to serve. Yeah, that's why I'm here. So glad to have met you, and yeah, if there's anything you need, be sure to let me know. Before we get closer to wrapping up here, I want to make sure people know how they can get your book, how they can reach out to you and support you. What are your social medias? What's your book? What's your website? Can you mind saying some of that stuff real quick?
Yeah, connectorddiebook.com. You'll learn a little bit more about me. You can grab a copy of the book. You know, I'd love for you to explore this. It's a book where, you know, it's not just read it once. There's connection reps in the back. There's strategies. This is something that you can do every couple months, every week. It's very in depth, so it's going to take time to work through those, but tons of information and opportunities to grow your relationships, to focus on them. RealJimMorris.com. That's going to have all my speaking stuff and some of my most requested keynotes and how I work with organizations and high performers and CEOs and executives. And then Real Jim Morris on social media. Let's connect, you know. Send me that DM, and if we can find a time to jump on a call, I'd love to do that and learn more about you and meet you and have the opportunity to make some introductions if there's levels of alignment. I love connecting people and allowing people to serve each other. It's something that really gets me excited.
Well, that's awesome, man. I think you sent me a DM. That's how I reached back out to you about being on the podcast today. So, true testament. It does work, and yeah, just definitely glad you're here. A couple more questions here. So, if you had a chance to go back and talk to your 9-year-old self, what would you say to him?
My 9-year-old self. If I was to talk to my 9-year-old self today, I would tell him not to give up.
Not to give up.
That you're going to change the world. And it's going to be unexpected. And you're going to have opportunities you never thought of. But keep following your heart. Keep doing the things that you know deep down you want to do. Even in times of suffering. Even in times of struggle. You can do it.
Well, that's awesome, man. That's great advice. I think any 9-year-old would appreciate that advice. All right, and final closing question: what is the most impactful moment in your life that changed everything for the future?
The most impactful moment in my life that changed everything for the future is when I decided to love myself. There was a time where I just wanted to live to 25 years old. And then I was 25. And then it was, let's just live to 30. And I just discredited all the things that my heart and soul wanted me to do. And I was just trying to get through to the next day. And when I decided to love myself at 32 years old, everything changed. My confidence increased. I started speaking. My failed relationships with women changed. I met my wife. I met some of the greatest people in my life who have impacted me at the highest levels. Opportunities started to come into play that I never would have thought about. I made the most money in a single 12-month period than I've ever made in my entire life. All these things started happening because that self-connection started to increase, which in turn I could connect deeper with others. And I believe it's someone, not something, that is the catalyst to follow your dreams. I did a TED Talk on it. And in those moments, it's funny because a lot of people say, Jim, you have friends from the 4th grade you still talk to, 5th grade, 6th grade. Like when I was back in Boston where I grew up, I spent time with 2 friends from 4th grade and 5th grade. And the difference about the depth of those relationships is they were going to love me no matter what. But some of the new relationships, some of the new opportunities, that wasn't going to be the case because I was masking. I was trying to be someone for so long that I never was going to be. So when I attracted people, they were attracted to that version of Jim Morris. And then when I started to love myself and be authentic and real, those people disappeared because now I was being the true Jim. So I think that's so important, and attracting people to who you truly are is going to allow you to have the deepest connections. And I feel very loved today. I feel very supported. I'm very grateful. And I continue to meet some of the best people in the world.
Well, that's awesome, man. Super, super beautifully well said. I do have one more question for you that I think you'll also appreciate. What do you need?
Let's go. Let's go. I need to have these types of conversations with people more. This stuff fires me up, man. Your engagement, how you broker the conversations, your depth of questions, how you listen. I teach a lot of people this, right? But it feels so good to get it back. And Jake, you did such a great job on the show, and how you build connections and relationships, and just this experience over the last 90 minutes or so. I love this stuff. Like, I wasn't joking earlier. I'm going to leave here. I'm going to be like fired up. I'm going to have to watch the speed limit as I pull out of the driveway type of thing.
Yeah, be careful. Don't hit my mailbox. Well, actually, it's a little damage. You can hit it.
But yeah, like, I love doing this stuff. So anybody that you know, anybody that's listening, that feels called to engage at these high level conversations, I love doing this, and I need more of it in my life. And I will always have the capacity to do this.
Well, awesome, man. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you, man.
Really nice meeting you. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.